Now look at this. When wildlife photographers get to heaven, this is what it's going to be like. On the right hand side of the road here, there's a stone wall and it's full of holes, and on the left hand side there's a little pull-in where I can get off the road, not block the traffic, and when I pull up I'm just at the right distance to photograph that wall. Perfect. Now the other thing I reckon is that 20-30 years ago, you get a stone wall like that full of holes, there'd be birds nesting there. That's in the days when we had good numbers of birds in the UK. We don't today, but 20-30 years ago, it's in a wooded area. There'd be either blue-tit, grey-tit, coal-tit, red-start, pied wagtail. Something would be breeding there. It's the end of May, right in the middle of the breeding season. Maybe not today because there's so few birds, but it's worth spending 5 minutes sitting here and just hoping. It's a good spot. Just imagine a red start right on top of that wall. Oh, there you go. We didn't have to wait long. It's a coal-tit. It's going to go into one of these holes. It's got food in its bill. Yep. Perfect distance. It's not a great picture. You've got a grey bird against a grey wall. It doesn't really stand out. But it's a good opportunity for me to mess about with the Pro Capture. I've used Pro Capture on the OM1 camera now a few times, but I haven't used the SH1, the high speed one, 120 frames per second. Maybe I should give that a try. So I've got the custom functions set up on the top of the camera, C1, C2, C3 and C4, and I've got C3 set up for Pro Capture. So I don't have to mess about. I go straight to the setting. All I've got to change is I've got it by default to set to 50 frames per second, SH2. I've just got to change that to bring it up to 120 frames per second, and I've got to manually focus because I'm just going to pre-focus in front of the nest hole. So I'll focus on the hole and then just come back 6 inches or so this way, and we'll see what we get. But it's a perfect situation. The sun keeps coming and going, but when the sun is shining, it's behind me, it's coming down like that. Of course, if this was really heaven, there'll be an ice cream van behind me as well, because it's a bit hot today still. I've got some scrimming in the back of the car. I could drape that over the door frame to obscure my face, but it's very rare that it's necessary. If a bird is obliging enough, you can pull up this close to it in a great big car and it's not bothered by that, then it's not going to be bothered by my face sticking out just above the window door. The bulk of my body is hidden, and that's enough. As long as I don't do something stupid, I don't flap my arms about, that bird is not going to be bothered by my face at all, hiding behind the camera here. I've also set up the FN lever, so I just turn it to position 2 and I'm in manual focus. But notice here, I've actually focused on the rocks. This was a mistake. So immediately the coal-tit comes out of the hole is out of focus. I should have focused a few inches in front, and I've made the same mistake the second time. And the third time. I'm a slow learner. Then I twigged, and now you can see the focus is considerably in front, but you've got to guess. You don't really know where to focus. And the bird is about in focus there and there, but we're not in great wing positions. And now he comes a bit too far to my left hand side and just about comes into focus before he goes out the frame. And a butterfly comes into the shot too. Again, at that point we're coming into focus there, but it's never going to be a great picture. Grey bird against a grey rock is just not going to stand out. It's just a good experience to have with the 120 frames per second Pro Capture. Is in focus there, but not great wing positions and too close to the edge of the frame. And one as he's coming into the hole. So I'm almost certainly going to delete all of these pictures. It was just for the experience. And now we're just coming into focus about there. And that's probably the best shot that I've got. I was there for a couple of hours and took several thousand pictures when you're doing 120 frames per second. And the shutter speeds could have been faster as well. My default setting for birds in flight is 2,500th of a second. Notice the eyes closed there as well, that white eyelid down. But for a small bird like this, I'd rather go faster than 2,500ths of a second, and there wasn't really enough light. Just coming into focus there. The other thing that was impossible to do was to pan with the bird, so I've tried putting the camera over to the right hand side. But of course the next time he comes out he goes to the left. So the pictures of the coal tit were taken in the North York Moors National Park, which is my favourite national park for car window wildlife photography. I came across a missel thrush, which really wasn't very obliging. He was in rather long grass and I thought I'm never going to get a nice picture of him, but he disappeared. And after this short viewing I didn't see him again, but a pair of red-legged partridge came along, and this was more interesting. There are some bird photographers who won't photograph this bird because it's not a British native bird, it was introduced and it's just heavily game reared. But I always do, I think they're very attractive. Notice he's chucking a bit, making a call. Now notice there's a fair amount of vibration in the lens, and that's because it was very windy and the car was rocking. So it doesn't matter how steady I keep the lens, if the car's rocking there's going to be movement there. But let's play that clip again. So we're starting again, but this time there's less vibration there because I've reduced it in the video editing software. I've taken the vibration out, and that's very effective. It does magnify the bird slightly, it crops it, but it does work very well. So the female's coming into the shot behind here, and from a stills photography point of view, the fact the female's there and it's got its back to me is a bit of a nuisance. But at the same time I thought there was some potential for a photograph, so let's look at a few stills. There's the female, just a distraction in the background. But when she came a bit closer, I started to get interested. So I closed the lens down to f10. I want a bit more depth of field. I want to get both these birds sharp. And then when I think she's in the right position, I squeak my lips. Little sound like that. Just loud enough to get her to pick her head up and look at me. And again when she came round the side. And then immediately her head goes back down again. She only lifts her head for that split second as you just squeak your lips. And then you always take a few vertical shots as well as horizontal. The weather was a bit mixed. We'd have sunshine and rain at the same time. And what I've come across here is a young curlew family on the side of the road. The problem I've got is from the window I'm really a bit low. I've got that horrible grey sky behind the bird. I don't really want that. I want to be higher up. And that is very achievable. Birds can be remarkably tolerant. So long as you keep the bulk of your body hidden behind the car, they'll take no more notice of you than when you're sitting in the car. So the beanbag goes on the roof. It's not so much slow movements as steady movements. You don't flap your arms about, you just go up steadily, keep everything as hidden behind the car as you can. My head's behind the camera and the beanbag, and the bird just carries on as if I'm not there. You obviously have to go outside of the vehicle on the opposite side, and if you've got to go out the passenger door, that can be a bit awkward. But the picture is certainly improved by avoiding that grey sky. For the stills pictures, the ISO was 1600, shutter speed 2000ths of a second with the lens wide open at 5.6, so that means it's got the built-in 1.25 extender. Waders are prone to bringing their chicks to the edges of the road because the grass is very short here, and if those little soft downy chicks get wet in the long grass, they get cold and then they possibly die. But where the grass is shorter, they don't get so wet and they're easier for the adults to look after. Golden plovers are also quite easy to photograph at this time of year. They're in the cotton grass here, which causes lots of distractions in the background. At the same time, it is their habitat. And the bird is giving off this contact call. There was another bird in the distance replying to it, but it's also just keeping its chicks together. Now the bird has moved onto a far more attractive area, short grass covered in water droplets. That looks a very attractive setting for them. Same shutter speed, 2000ths of a second, and 1600 ISO is really my default setting with the OM1 camera now. And I'll just finish off with a lapwing because there's lots of them about on this moor, and it's my favourite British bird. Thanks for watching.